public comments? Not seeing anyone from the public. I'd say probably not. The next agenda item I just had listed was work session. We'll update for people maybe watching on CAT TV, but the last Mount Anthony board meeting, the board did authorize for the ballot question to be added to the March town meeting day election. Currently, Renee is working with legal on the wording on that. And I think once the wording is approved, you guys will give your final okay. So for our work session, my thought was let's prepare for that vote. And my thought was, I know for any vote, there has to be a 30 days prior to the election, there has to be a public hearing. And we had mentioned doing at least the one and possibly others as a town hall. So that was my first thought is how many town halls do we want to have, when, where. I know last time we did I think 2, right? I think they were both on Zoom because it was still coming out of COVID. It was 21. Mm-hmm. So they were not heavily attended.
Right.
So I think my thought was the blue seats would be a good forum for at least one of them, if not both or multiple. So I don't know how many people want to have or think we need to have.
Do you think it's worth it to go to a select board meeting with the presentation? I know that a lot of people watch the select board meetings.
Well, I mean, we are, multiple communities, Bennington obviously being the largest. I would hate to ignore the other smaller.
Yeah, I mean, in addition to.
But I don't think it would hurt to have maybe I could reach out to Stuart to see if maybe, or Jeannie, and see if we can get on their agenda.
Did you watch the select board meeting from Monday?
I did not. I tried to watch them, but I did not. I know their agendas are pretty long.
It was pretty long, but Stu's comments in the end, I think that during the meeting, someone asked about taxes and, the town plan. And, Stuart brought up the fact that the school board taxes, the way it looks right now, we're going to jump substantially. And, it didn't paint a really good picture for us going in.
Yeah,
So
it sounds like it's echoing the similar message that the governor put out there. And I know the new law is confusing
It
for
is,
the
yeah.
tax rate because, it might benefit our community. It might not. I mean, they really can't project that yet. So I know it's kind of hard to say tax rates, what
Yeah.
tax rates will be. We can say what budget increases would be. Renee did get us I can email it out and share it. I don't have it with me right now, but a projection on what a cost would be because the wording was up to $3 million.
Yes.
So if we were to borrow that full amount of $3 million, like the worst case scenario, what would the payback be over a 10-year bond or a 12-year bond? On the 10-year bond, the payback in year 1, so actually the first payback would be in 2025 budget fiscal year.
Oh, okay.
And that first initial year payment would be $350,000, which is about 1% of the current MAU budget. So hearing 1%, knowing that, hey, this isn't a large increase to the budget. It's not a large increase to the budget. I don't know what that is as a tax rate.
That's the way you spell it out.
Yeah, and I did some quick math, just in looking at tax rates. I don't know, Renee's gonna tell me I'm not exact, but that's not new. But I think for the common person, I equate it to reducing, if you're someone who likes to have a cup of coffee every day, if you could give up a cup of coffee a week to pay for a new turf field and new track and new lights, would you do that? And that's basically what it looks like. I mean, a cup of coffee is $4 or $5 for a cup of coffee. And, it really, that's what it would be for our community.
That sounds like good selling points. However, when I was at our budget meeting and listened to that, and Spinelli was not included even,
It's not in that.
I would think that unless we had some serious cuts or we do some serious selling, we could lose both.
Well, again, this isn't in, that isn't in the 20, she's doing what, fiscal 20?
2025?
Yeah, so I guess the first payment wouldn't be in 25, maybe I read it wrong, it was 25, 26, I saw 25. The budget session she's doing now, we won't borrow any money. If this gets approved in March, we won't borrow any money till the following fiscal year, so payback wouldn't hit So that's why you probably didn't see it in that hearing, because it's hypothetical right now. It wouldn't be until next year's budget that would actually hit. But you're right, there's, as everyone knows, there's substantial with health insurance and salary increases, those things that just unfortunately aren't in our control. Um,
So can we, start fundraising?
The board approved that last year, I
We can
think, in
start,
right in
remember, I
July.
didn't want to start anything until,
Right,
we got back to
Yeah.
work.
Yep.
Again, I mean, I've got everything ready to go.
Yep.
And now maybe since the season is over for you, you can get some teammates. Mike, if you're up to board, there she is. Up to speed on the whole project thing, but.
Yeah.
And
Again, I think the feedback I heard, and I could be wrong, Mike, I know you've heard some of it, I think people will be more willing to give and work on fundraising when we know there's a project happening.
exactly.
So-
I mean, I don't want to have this pile of
Exactly.
bricks somewhere,
If we can, when the vote passes in March,
Yeah, we're ready to go.
it's borrowing up 2-3 million, but any donations, any fundraising, anyone that's feeling they want, some attachment to this project and say, hey, I really want to help that community out,
Which is great, because we already have
that
a
will
bank account
reduce
set
how
up
much, exactly.
at the high school, and maybe we can have, maybe we have some fun with it once you figure out, you forego your cup of coffee and send the $4 to this account, I mean,
No, I
that'd
agree.
be kind of fun,
And I think that's something that we could say, okay, hey, we've got X amount that's been donated and earmarked,
Yep.
as a donation. We only need to borrow this amount. So that's why the wording is important, that it's not, we're borrowing 3 million, we're on the hook for 3 million. No, it's up to.
Yep.
And we only take the bond out for what our actual out-of-pocket costs would be after fundraising.
Has Holly given you an update on where the field, with the assessment of the field with that?
Tony, the technical,
Yeah.
Tony said they're looking at, there's a plan and they have, they're gonna hopefully do it soon. He was just chatting with me today about it. So
Don't they have to do that before the ground freezes entirely?
I believe so. So he has something scheduled soon, right?
I believe so.
Yeah. That's what he said. So they'll come in and do that core work and analyze it, and that'll help with, getting the ball rolling sooner when it gets approved.
To me, I think the fundraising is pushing right after the March vote. So if the March vote is a positive, vote, then I think we essentially have
It's the whole year.
a whole year before,
Yeah.
because we're looking at the following spring, because then it would have to go out to bond, out to bid, all the
The
process.
design phase can be done while
Yeah.
we're fundraising, and those are the things like, hey, while we're doing this design, hey, that scoreboard's antiquated, maybe the fundraising pays for that, or
Yep.
they find things that, hey, if you're putting a new project in, recommend doing this, but that adds to that cost. So yes, we need the turf, yes, we need the track, yes, we need the lights, but there might be something that might be considered extra to others, but that's something the fundraising pays for. That's my thought process.
Yeah.
Because unless there's someone out there watching that wins the lottery or locally says, hey, I'd really like to help this community, kind of like what baseball had, and wants to donate a large chunk of this project, knock on wood, you just don't see those things happening every day.
We're not Manchester.
And I
We
think
have
that's
to
why
put it in
the
effect.
language saying up to
Yeah.
is important,
Yeah.
because it doesn't mean it has to be spent. It doesn't mean this is what
Yeah.
we're, so if we find that, the fundraising goes a lot better, and as Chad said, that mystery donor comes through, you don't have to borrow all of that. We can just borrow 1.5 million or 2 million or whatever. But I think that's my gut, is to wait on the fundraising until the positive vote.
Well, then there's always that question, is if someone donates and the project never happens, what do you do
Right.
with that money?
Right, and I didn't want to go, I was
Yep.
torn with what to do with that. I mean, because we called it Friends of Mount Anthony or something
Yep.
like that.
Yeah.
And we didn't say it was earmarked for Spinelli.
Yeah.
We were trying to choose our words carefully so that, if we did start early, we wouldn't have to refund money, but
Yeah. I mean,
we're ready. I'm ready when anybody is ready.
I think the path we've chosen is the most responsible path,
Mhm.
because as we know, the track is at its life expectancy. It has to be done. bonding it out over 10 years actually helps that payment where it's affordable. If this doesn't pass, it has to be done. And building that into a 1-year budget is a huge increase in 1 year to redo the whole entire track. I don't know about a patch, but even a patch, you're just putting a Band-Aid over.
We've been patching it for years.
Well, it hasn't even been patched. I mean, we've been kicking the can,
Yeah.
unfortunately, and I think the increased, I mean, it seems like the amount of water, rain, runoff, like there's that dip and it just keeps getting lower and it's gonna be to a point
It's a
where
sinkhole.
it's a sinkhole and something's gonna happen and
We're gonna lose a student.
well, the community uses it. There's a lot of people
Yeah.
there on weekends and whatnot using it, and you'd hate to see losing that, but we have to fix that. The lights, we've done a lot of electrical work. I remember some of your soccer games where the things are blowing up and like you have fans and then that's been all fixed, but the lights themselves are old and cost. I mean, those have to be fixed eventually too. They're on there. Those things are old. So these are things that have to be done. We're trying to do it responsibly by spreading it out over 10 years on a bond. So that's my thought process is if we don't do it this way, it's actually more expensive to do it in a budget system versus the bond system.
So that's, I think, one of the things that we have to thinking about this for trying to figure out the best way to do it. But one of the things I think that we have to communicate the most with the people when we're having these sessions is I think we need to work with central office to determine what we've spent, get the exact numbers year over year, for every year for the last say 5 years.
Yeah.
What we've spent to maintain and what it costs to mow, gas, what it costs to line.
Right?
Every single penny that goes down to maintaining Spinelli Field and the grass turf and the cost that we've put in to patch it over the years,
And
the cost to put in for the track over the years. And every single year, we need an amount for every single year. And then also, so we have that. And then also we need an amount that what the track would cost, what an estimated amount that we would have to spend in 1 year to repair. Because that's all our ammunition for being able to say, okay, well, this bond is $3 million or $2.5 million or whatever it is. And that translates to this much a year over the next 10 years. We are already spending this percentage of that in what we're doing. And I'm sure it's probably equal.
Yeah.
And I think if we can translate that into numbers that people can actually digest and not just see that large number, because that is the only thing people focus on. If we can translate it and be able to speak to those numbers and what that is on a yearly basis, I think that would be a much easier thing for people to understand than that large number.
Tony does have a quote for a patch fix. So
And
he
when we
does have
do
that.
those figures, we ought to stress that what we're paying Peter Janellis
Right, as
is
part
a
of
lot
it.
less
Right.
than what we'd be.
Right.
He's doing it, and I
Yes,
don't know how long that's
No,
gonna be.
Peter, yeah, and definitely, Peter's told me that, he has his, he knows his hours he's put in, so he's done basically an in-kind donation, to the school and,
And that, yeah, that should
several
definitely.
years, so his actual figures versus
What somebody else. would charge.
what he's billed versus what he should have billed.
Correct.
I don't know if we had any, we incurred any costs when the soccer team couldn't play on the field and they had to go,
There's costs for
you know,
these.
All of it.
yeah, everything like that.
Every single penny
Yep.
that we invest and pay out of our budget towards that, because I have a feeling that number's
Yeah.
pretty close to each other.
So you kind of got to where I wanted to go next was, our talking points, FAQs, because I read something recently about how companies like Nike and how they sell their shoes. Nike doesn't tell you what materials they make their shoes out of, what they put into their shoes. They portray how their shoes are used and what their shoes can do for you.
What's
How
in it
can-
for them?
Yeah, well, how can this make you a better athlete? And that's how you sell products. And this is something we need to sell. We need to sell to the voters. And that thought process is how can this turf field, how can the track, how can the lights benefit not only the students, not only the parents, not only the teachers, but the whole entire community, and get those talking points. And I think once you get more people believing, hey, this will help me, that's how you sell it. And I think we can get into, well, it's gonna have this fill and it's gonna have this thing, it can do,
Mhm.
that's just getting lost in the weeds. But I think telling people, hey, could be cost neutral, if we take away all these things that we're spending. So I think those costs, I wrote down, so my thought process is it's like kind of divide and conquer. We all can't just go doing the research. I can't do all the research, but annual cost, exact amounts, Tony should have that in his budget, actual reports and whatnot. The patch cost, Tony could get that. I don't want to task Renee with finding it, but I know Tony should be able to get what those invoices that at least he has from Peter, and then how many man hours his guys spend, what their hourly rate is. So I think Tony could get that for us. Other frequently asked questions, talking points that will come up.
Medical issues of turf versus grass is going to come up. So we did talk in the past about having either an orthopedic surgeon or an athletic trainer and not ours, somebody else, come and do it,
Do you know anyone that works at the hospital that can maybe find someone for us?
that might.
Okay, I don't know, I'm just, when I hear it, that's a good idea.
Yeah.
Someone that, I don't have any connections at like, SVMC Orthopedics, but if you know someone that does, or if anyone does.
I think also the talking point was always, well, why is it that the NFL is switching back to grass and really reiterating that,
If we could afford it.
ideally, if we had like, $1 million, like, kind of.
A day.
$1 million a day to maintain it.
Yeah.
Right.
But it's also,
And a lot of that is in southern places
Right.
where you can
Yeah.
grow grass.
Yeah, but that's just something that's kind of, advertised of recent, they don't want to be playing on turf anymore. They're going back to grass.
so
So,
they don't want to play on turf too, because they, it's hard on knees and everything else. But, our high school students aren't professional athletes, right? So there is a different in body mass.
their
and
groundskeepers are not, they do
Professional
the best that
Wonderful
they.
job, but you're right, they're not, it's not a
Yeah.
consistent playing
Right.
field just
No.
because
So, there's,
we're turf would be
there's
consistent.
whole scientific studies done on turf with high schoolers and turf with professional athletes. I know Michael and I had extensive conversations about this. So.
Yeah, so I don't know if you know someone there, or even if Michael has connections in Albany that someone could come over. I know it would be hard for Michael, he probably wouldn't be the most appropriate.
He
I don't wanna
would
say it,
not be, but
Well, I wouldn't want anyone thinking it's a conflict, but if he has connections, I know with, people in Albany and different organizations, if there's someone.
he
that would
works
be
at
willing-
St. Peter's Neuro, so he has orthos on staff and he's pretty close with them, so.
Or even anyone he went to school with
Yeah.
at Castleton, but I think that would be helpful if someone could get that information.
And do we want representation or people with experience with one versus the other, like from other schools, like BBA or,
So we did that the last time. We did have, I reached out to the ADs who went from, a grass field to a turf. And the quote was always like 1 turf field equals 3 grass fields easily, just in terms of the amount of like kind of usage and play you get on it. And most of the ADs are like, we wish we had done it sooner, that it's.
and were they at, because I don't necessarily recall any of them speaking out.
No, these are people from Burlington, or these are
Yeah.
people, so I got their reports and we kind of like put it in the Q and
Yeah,
A's.
but it may be beneficial, like if we could possibly get somebody from somewhat relatively local, like a Manchester or something. to
They're putting in
be-
their second one.
Right, they're putting in their second one, obviously, and I would also, when it comes to Manchester, I would be interested to find out what the cost of maintaining Applejack is. Because we hear that all the time, like, what about Applejack? That's not too far away, and that's a beautifully maintained field. And what is the cost that's related to that? And I think that,
What's
like,
the usage of that?
Yeah,
And right,
it's
what's-
just not used. It's not
and-
used.
That's why it's beautiful. I think it maybe 10 times a year.
Yeah, it's not used. It's not used nearly as much as like, the turf field will be used like, tenfold over.
right. So that definitely has the majority to do with it, but I would just, like, what do they do? How much does it cost to prepare them for the season after the grass dies? Like that kind of stuff, I feel like because they experience both, they have that beautiful grass field, and then now they're putting in their second turf. Obviously, they feel that the benefit of turf. So it would be, I think it would be beneficial if we can convince somebody, because I'm sure they want us to have turf too.
Yep.
So like, it would be in their best interest for us to have turf.
I
And
think Dave Maselli would be.
he probably would totally, so like maybe having somebody as a guest in those sessions that could answer questions that come up that we wouldn't want to be able to say, okay, because we're not gonna know to ask all the questions ahead of time. And it's better for somebody to answer those questions right there in that,
Right.
thought process.
Agreed.
And then the other thing I was thinking, is there a way for us to maybe speak to like the Middleburys or trying to think who else holds tournaments and stuff like that? Because when you're talking about the what's in it for me kind of aspect of it, if we can figure out how to quantify how much a town could potentially bring in revenue from a
We have a
Restaurants.
great local resource, I know you know him well, maybe you could reach out to, Scott about some of the youth wrestling tournaments they used to do. I know when they would have a Mount Anthony wrestling tournament or a two-night tournament, every hotel was full, Knotty Pine and Hampton were full, and I couldn't get into a restaurant because all the parents and their kids were there. So maybe Scott could quantify when he used to have those big tournaments. If you do mind, Dave, reaching out to him.
Not a problem.
And say, hey, how many teams used to come in? How many people do you know? I know he would reach out to the hotels and set up discount rates for large quantities of people coming in. And I think that would probably be the easiest, and it's local.
Right, because I don't think people realize how much potential money
Oh, for
can bring
Yeah.
into this community if we just had facilities that other people wanted to use.
Chad was saying, so Rutland always hosts the football state championships all the time, but now it's gonna start rotating.
Right.
It's going up to St. Johnsbury and
then South Burlington.
in South Burlington, and
We could be
why
on the
not,
rotation.
why not Mount Anthony,
Yep. And the
I mean,
PA
if,
set those guidelines. It
Right.
has to have ample parking, it has to have turf field, and it has to have lights.
And we would have all those things.
right,
I actually think we'd be ideal with our middle school being as close as it is for parking, because right now they park at Rutland, you park at Home Depot and they bus you over. I think it would be an ideal location,
And we could
right off
probably,
the highway.
right,
Yeah, I mean, it's a monster to, undertake, and just watching, I volunteered every year. I haven't coached up there and went back there this year, and it's a well-oiled machine. And I know St. Johnsbury's taking it next year, and you need an army of people to work it. But an army plus comes in and spends time in Rutland, and
and spends money.
takes you 20 minutes to get yourself at Gills now, on the state championship.
Call ahead.
Yes, I do, but I always feel bad when I walk in and grab my stuff. I bypass the line and grab my stuff.
I knew that.
But I agree, those things, and I know Scott will have the info.
We have to debunk the PFA stuff.
Oh, I don't think we have to do that anymore because it's just,
Well, we ought to, it's people
I agree.
remember.
yeah. Well, say that.
Like now-
The company.
These are responsible, yeah, it's a state mandated.
Well, did that bill
It
pass?
didn't pass yet.
No.
But I think it's slated for,
They can reintroduce the bill again.
yeah,
But if there's a project in place prior to that bill passing, it'll be grandfathered.
exactly.
But regardless, excuse me, they, no company is gonna use that product. They don't use that product, but they've already told us they use a water-based lubricant now. And they've never used that. Other companies have.
Yeah,
They don't have water.
I don't want you to.
Just talking all day.
But I do think that images are worth 1,000 words, and what we should, begin to create a PowerPoint, a story to tell. And I know that you have some really good pictures of the football field.
And I'm more than happy to create a PowerPoint if
I mean, yeah.
I can send some.
I will take that responsibility on. I don't necessarily have big connections, so I'm not gonna be able to help there, but
I have, I know in the last go, I went and got, images of all the turf fields in Vermont. So the new one at St. Johnsbury and PPA, so I can send you those, because their facilities are beautiful. They really are. And,
make sure we get some pictures of that already. I had sent those to you too, I sent you some really good pictures too, Chad, the parents sent me. I think.
I know if we start holding more events on there, I know Lori's mentioned this before, I haven't forgotten that you're here, Lori, but I know that that facility.
Is she on?
The
What are you talking to?
well, just the fact that we have to be cognizant of, hey, we have these events, people are gonna say, hey, can we start serving food? I know Maya had that, so we have to realize like we have to help grow our booster
Booster
club,
club, yeah.
volunteers, but if any organizations, that's another form of revenue, either for Booster if they take it on, or if other organizations use that facility. The fact that we have such a nice facility, but we just have to be aware that, hey, just because we're asking them to do more, if we're gonna do all those fields up there, or all the games up on that field, that it adds another season, because currently spring, Booster Club just doesn't run during the spring.
Right.
And asking people to do that year round, I think that puts the burden on all of us to find, hey, some more volunteers and people to work in those organizations and work with the.
And then those teams volunteering look just like they volunteer during the fall, because then that just benefits them in terms of the money they make too, in terms of their fundraising. So, I mean, it's just another opportunity for them to fundraise. And then maybe we can get away from, some of the other fundraising that we do, and where we're always asking family members, you know what I mean, that kind of stuff, or to buy crap.
Well, I mean, they offer this, I think of like, I know in Carson.
There's a scholarship, yeah.
Yeah, when Carson was a senior, he got one of the Booster Club scholarships, and he came to the events and volunteered, and that made him eligible.
Mhm.
And so, every penny counts.
Absolutely.
Right, so we have some good, so just notes I've taken, I'll recap this and email to people, because I have assigned like jobs to people, but like annual costs, the cost of the patch, medical orthopedics, getting information from ADs from other schools. Do you mind reaching out, like?
Nope.
Okay, I know you talk to most daily, so.
Yep.
And then Dave, you could talk with, Scott about getting some figures, and then you could do a PowerPoint, with some photos. Currently, what Spinelli is, what other facilities look like.
And then I could add in some of when we get to some of those statistics, I'll include those slides in terms of.
But maybe you can send her the artist renderings of what it would look like that we had from a long time ago. I mean, it's not.
Yeah, we didn't have much of the field.
We just had the
It was the
aerial.
build- Yeah, there was
view
that
and the
aerial,
buildings, I mean, yeah.
Could the company do anything like that?
I mean,
I don't know if they would, just for the fact, like, we had that, so we could include that.
yeah,
Yeah,
Mhm.
conceptual plans.
and I could always have my designers crop the buildings out.
Yeah,
Cut
yeah.
them out.
Yeah.
And put Emmett, make it look pretty
Right.
put MU in there.
Yeah, so if you want to do that, you can send that to me and I can.
Well, I just think, like you said, making it look pretty. I know that some students have asked me like, hey, when we get this, like, what logo are we gonna put on there? Is it gonna be the Patriot head? Is it gonna be the M? And I was like, that'd be a great thing. Make it be a student contest,
It should be, yeah.
It's got a bow, it's got
Yeah.
a bow, we get student input. It's your field, so why wouldn't you? I know the logo that's on the, on this Booster Shack was a student designed logo, part of graphic tech and graphic design, so Southwest Tech could get involved with some stuff, so I think of like the ways to incorporate those things. I think it's
Let's push for a royal blue track though. I think that'd be nice, like a blue track as opposed to
a black.
Black one?
Yeah, I would go for the blue grass. I know it was a Boise State.
No, we're not doing blue grass.
It gives us that home field advantage with blue jerseys and blue pants. Maybe some of our receivers won't get covered. Yeah, probably not.
I think the selling point is it's a teaching station. And lessons are learned on that field that you don't learn in English, math, and science. And we're just trying to update our facility. It hasn't been updated in a long time, and like I say, it's a very important teaching station.
Yeah. Well, I know Dave Maselli can mention it, but I know at BBA, it's an outdoor classroom.
Mm-hmm.
Students are out there, they have English teachers. So yes, the life lessons that sports teach, and hopefully that can engage more kids in doing it. But teachers during the day, coming out on a nice day when you've been inside for months and then it's early April and you're not gonna go on Spinelli now because it's wet, but when it's a turf field, they can go out there and they have reading groups, they have.
He said in email, again, I'm going back a couple of years, but, and it stuck with me, it's like the town meeting center, like now. So when you, have some free time and, hey, you want to just meet up on the field and I'll have a catch, or we'll work on some shots. It's just there. It's open and it's accessible and it's where the kids meet up now.
And ours will be so much nicer because we actually have bleachers.
Yeah.
Yeah, they don't sit on the ground and
You know, like,
the other thing I think that it would be important to mention in here is the fact that other students, not only football and track, would be able to use it. Soccer would be able to use it, lacrosse would be able to use it. So, and when we're talking images, maybe we can get some images of, the pool in front of the goalie's net on the veterans field, right? So, because it's terrible too.
Yeah.
I probably have, in all the video I have of lacrosse, I probably have a couple,
Most of
I
the
could probably
time-
take some.
Most of the time I have my camera on my girl, but
Yeah.
not below her.
Well, and we also have the data, I know, the opening game 2 years ago, I think girls lacrosse was supposed to open with South Burlington and couldn't open at home and had to play a home game on the road because
Yeah.
South Burlington had turf. They were like, oh, we don't want to cancel the game, sorry, you're feeling, we'll host you. So I actually sent them up there, and then that's happened more than once where,
Mhm.
we had a playoff game hosted in Massachusetts one year, didn't we?
I remember
It was the
running
first-
a clock for a Brattleboro versus Mount Anthony lacrosse game on the Burnburton turf.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
I think
That
that
was
was
a couple
like,
years ago, right?
like 5-6 years ago.
But I know, I remember, I didn't think about it, I think someone from the Free Press commented, there was, I think it was a boys lacrosse playoff game hosted at
We were at Williams. I did
And they
I
said
did a
that
Williams.
this is the first time a Vermont VPA playoff game was actually played out of state.
Yeah.
And then someone mentioned, I think Dartmouth used to host the indoor track meets too, but
Maybe we could get some comments too from the VPA.
about, preferred playing surface.
Yeah.
No, that's not a bad idea. Lauren Thomas might want to chime in on that, so.
Physical education can use the field.
And
Spring band, baseball and softball, instead of hitting grounders in the gym, can be out on that.
And I think maybe that's something they just maybe don't, when we have these meetings, maybe it's better to have as many coaches there as possible to answer those questions.
Yeah.
So
I
invite
definitely-
the spring coaches and all the fall coaches, not just the ones on the committee, but the ones that can speak to the benefits for their.
And every athlete should be in these, like, as many athletes that are available should be attending these meetings. They need to invest.
I do know you talked with, Mike Norman up in Rutland about their turf. And, it's something, they've kept really good care of their turf. And one of the things that Chad said was, never plowed. They don't put a plow on the turf to kind of, you go down to Williams College and the plow is, clearing off the snow because they're using it. The kids want to be on it during the winter. I would err on the side of, not plowing it, right? And kind of like preserving it,
Yeah, well, the last couple late March, early April, there's not a lot of snow on the
It's not
ground.
snow, it's just
Some
sun.
of the field is saturated, so I know, yeah, exactly, like when like a lot of the college they plow because their baseball starts in February,
Yeah.
right? So you're gonna have that snow. But yeah, Mike said, one of his coaches told me they don't ever use, like, they don't have the tractors out there with plows for moving snow. And that was part of the recast to replace their turf field this past year, and the North-South All-Star football game had to get moved to Norwich because the fear of snow, and they don't want you plowing it in that first year because they want the beads to settle. And the field's only 3 months old, and Castleton said, hey, we don't want to have to cancel on you, can we move it to next year? So I know, maybe some of these colleges, like you said, getting BPA input, but talking to Castleton, hey, now that you're on your second turf field,
And how long did the first one last?
I don't know.
That might be.
Yeah, it's worth knowing.
Yeah,
Yeah,
because
find
they
out.
took really good care of it, maybe
I believe-
not every
I believe
10
Field
years,
Turf did theirs, but that might be something, the athletic director at Castleton.
Yes,
maybe.
I mean,
You don't
BBA's gotta be on 6
I think DBA's 2018,
Longer than
no,
that.
2017. No, was it
Longer than that.
Was it?
It's longer than that.
Yeah.
Longer than that.
PDA's
Probably
probably
like-
going on their 10th, going on their 10th year.
So they've got some longevity and it still looks
No,
fantastic.
you wouldn't know. You wouldn't know. South Burlington's had on their second turf. Their second go around. Burlington High School, I don't know how much that one gets used anymore.
It does, it still gets used all the time.
And even with the replacement of the turf, it's gotta be cheaper than the first time around,
Yes.
right?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah,
Because they're just rolling up
Right.
that's the top surface, adding infill and putting down a new,
Right.
you know, all that foundational work's already done, so
Right.
it is much cheaper. I think they said that initial replacement, was under $1 million, $800,000 for the replacement.
Yeah.
Well, that's something you can plan for ahead of time.
right, yeah,
But Rutland's gotten 13, 14 years out of theirs, when they say the warranty is, I think, 8 years, or that's what the company tells you, but they've had, and the technology's improved. And, with that technology is improving, they're seeing longer shelf life.
Rutland must be going on year 15, 16. I mean, it's been.
And they're
there.
scheduling, I believe Mike said they were scheduled to do the replacement, I don't know if it's soon or if they're planning it.
and theirs isn't great right now
Yeah.
at this point, but it's not
It's still better than a grass
It's
surface.
better than-
I mean,
I really had
we
turf
played
when
up,
Michael was a freshman and he graduated in 13.
we played up there this year and it was raining, and it would have been a rough game to play at Mount Anthony, but it was fine to play there. This, again, hosting 3 championship games this year up there,
Right.
it's still a very good field.
Mhm.
And to get that many years out of it, it's amazing.
pretty awesome.
So we've got a lot on this list. How many meetings? So we never really said, do we want to have at least 2? Do we want to go with 3?
I think at least 2. So we definitely need to have one at town hall, right? You said,
No, I'm calling it a town
Oh,
hall meeting, but,
don't we have to go
so-
to town to, on election day or?
so we
day
don't
before?
have to, it doesn't have to be within 30 days of the vote, there has to be a public hearing. It doesn't say where, it just has to be accessible to the public and warned properly.
Oh.
So I know whenever the town of Bennington was on the select board, we had like.
Town meeting day.
No, well, there was that one bond year with the fire truck.
Yep.
You have to have a public hearing. They would always schedule it the same day as the select board meeting. And what happened prior to the select board meeting, there would be this is the public hearing for whatever issue. I don't know if it's worthwhile to tack that on to an MAU meeting. I think it's better to have it as a separate meeting. I think with the turnout that is expected, that's why I was thinking with new seats at high
I
school.
think that would be great.
And having that, one of those be the official public hearing that has to be warned appropriately and whatever legal says we have to do. I don't know all the legal kind of, but I know it has to happen within 30 days of
So when is
the
the
election.
vote? It is, we work,
March
we
6th.
work backwards?
Yeah,
Yeah,
March
March
6th.
6th.
I think closer to it would be better, but we could always have another one prior to that.
So if it's March 6th,
I don't know if it is March,
Is it-
is it March 5th?
well, yeah, March 5th, because that, March 5th is a Tuesday.
Yeah,
If we did it,
at least a week prior. I mean, I would say at least a week just in case you have to cancel because of inclement weather.
yeah. Maybe-
So like the 27th?
Do I really have to come on my birthday?
No.
I would.
Or like,
The
what
20
day a week do you
So-
think is best?
I think.
I mean, to avoid a Wednesday where meetings would be scheduled for the district would probably be,
So maybe the
so
20,
a Tuesday or Thursday.
Tuesday or
The
Thursday?
problem is the week prior is that February break and a lot of people are out of town. So, maybe we have one in early, that first week of February, and we have a second one that last week of February. And that means both are in that 30-day window. If we have one, say, on, like February 8th, and then a second one on February 27th.
Yeah, that'd be great.
Both are technically within the 30-day window. Hopefully, if we have them both, there's no cancellation because of snow, but it makes sense. I mean, because we could have a preliminary one in January open to the public, but that wouldn't qualify as we could ask legal or ask Renee.
But I think you're right, the closest we get to it, so it's still fresh in people's minds.
Yeah.
And then if we have them close enough that people can come back with questions, if they have more questions, they can come back. to
Well,
us.
I think, again, it might be also talking about with Cassie to find out, hey, when does absentee ballot start? Because we can tell people after that first meeting, if we have it in early February, You can go to your town offices now and vote today. You do not have to wait till March 5th. Request your ballot and fill it out now. You know, I think that's important, to get the voting, getting voters to turn out.
I can find out, I'll find out from Cassie when they can do it.
I wonder if we could piggyback it to, there's an athletic event at 7 or something, and we
Have it
could
earlier.
be before that.
Yeah, the JV parents, I know that might be tricky, but,
But I
can
guess
show
you would have to check the availability of the blue seats for
Yes.
you, right?
yeah, I mean, Amber can get us that.
Or-
Oh,
It's all updated.
the blue seats are on, no, I'm talking about,
Well, it's just the calendar is updated.
oh, I didn't know the, auditorium calendar.
But, yeah, we just have to find out from, I don't know that Lynn has booked in for her, you know, spring, you know,
Yeah, I know they have,
musical.
in there, they always do, British Invasion, right, in January?
That's in January.
Yeah. So,
This is primary, right? So voting for primaries this year. That's in March too, right?
that's
So that-
yeah.
That's
So that's
the day.
good.
Oh,
Yeah,
that, the turnout will be
Better
Better.
than normal.
better than normal. So it's Super Tuesday around.
And I mean, we can
Around the
always
country.
try again in the presidential election in November, worst case scenario, but I don't, I think.
It would cost more money because it's not a local election that day, so we would, yes, there's election being held, but you have to have a separate ballot. There's no cost doing it now
Mm.
because,
it's the school.
It's the
like-
No, I agree 100% doing it now, I'm just saying like, say it gets voted
yeah,
down.
I don't,
And we have to do it again.
I don't think we have to worry about that. I know turnout will be higher,
Because of.
because Super Tuesday. I mean, in hindsight, putting it on a special election, one question ballot.
Yes,
and
there
we
was,
know-
yes, there
We were
was.
anxious, we were.
Well, I think we were naive to think, you know,
Cared enough?
well, when people see you, they're gonna wanna tell you what you wanna hear. But then afterwards, I was like, I can't believe it didn't pass, and I'll be like, yeah, I didn't either, I wish I could have voted for it. I was like, but you could, you live in Pownell. What do you mean? And then like I had several of those conversations where people didn't
Me
know
too.
they're like, oh, I thought that was a town of Bennington thing. I was like, no, this is not it. So I think educating the populace of, that's what these meetings are for, but also, it's not just, you know, putting a post on Facebook. It's-
Right.
It's getting,
Are there, like, I imagine there are parent communications from SU about meetings coming up. They could go in the newsletter, they could,
Yep.
I mean, I don't know.
Well,
Yeah.
there's a
Special
SU
email
newsletter every
Yeah.
Yeah, but I
Friday.
don't know how many people read that. I'm just thinking something that's labeled Spinelli Field.
Yep.
You want
I-
more information on Spinelli Field?
yeah.
Come.
I do know, again, another legal question, I know the district can't, I mean, they can encourage you to vote. I don't know, can they encourage you to vote yes?
No.
No,
Yeah, I didn't think so. So I know,
but I can.
yes, yes. So yeah, I think putting information out there that these are your ballot articles. These are, you know, here's your budget, here's the budget amount, here's this article. I don't know how many articles will be on the Mount Anthony side of the budget. I don't know if there's anything else that needs to be approved other than the budget and the obviously the people running for new seats, or if there's any, I mean, there's a lot of open seats or vacant seats that'll be, those are usually the
Mhm.
after the bond vote question.
You know, and I think it would be really cool, Mike Mawson's already said he'd write a story, and maybe he put some of those questions in the story that he will write, and maybe he can research, so it doesn't look like it's us.
Yep.
That he reached out to Dr. Schneiderberger or whatever her name is up there, you know, and put some of the questions and answers in that story.
Yeah, get some student input in there, get it from all sides.
We could create since most of the people in this town tend to get their news from Facebook, we could create a Friends of Spinelli page.
I know, like every keyboard warrior, you
I know.
have to have someone managing that very
Yeah.
closely to delete any
Mhm.
of those comments.
Misinformation.
You know,
Well,
maybe it's one
misinformation or-
manager, can I manage?
I mean, the Bennington Banner site is the biggest punching bag in town, unfortunately. I mean,
Just call me Big Stu, because I'm everywhere. That's what this lady told me. Big Stu, she's everywhere. I'm in Benton, State's Attorney's Office.
yes, everyone's got a keyboard, everyone's got access, and
Well, not everyone.
well, not everyone, and some of the people
Okay,
that
Dave, we'll read to you.
some of the people that should, don't, and the ones that do probably shouldn't.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, it's like we talk about it with our students today, and digital zombies
Digital zombies.
and what it's like to be glued to a screen and what you say behind a screen and stuff like that. So I think some of the lessons we teach in our flex classes could help our community, and that's all communities, but that's just the downside of social media.
Yeah.
So I'm always very cautious about
Facebook groups.
creating Facebook groups because of the amount of hate and misinformation and anything that can be posted, unfortunately.
Yeah. I agree with that.
All right.
It's my morning entertainment is reading the comments on the other side.
Ah. All right, so, Mike, I saw you had the calendar up. Do we have any dates that?
Yeah, so I looked at it and then I
Because I
moved
do
off
like
of
the
it
idea of tacking on to maybe a basketball game or a wrestling match or something. I don't know if that works, but
So are you looking for, like a during the week, sort
Yeah.
of like an evening?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Is there a specific evening, looking at in February?
probably early February, somewhere between, I mean, if it has to happen within 30 days, so if it's March 5th, somewhere after, on or around March 5th, or February
That
5th.
first work, with that first week in February?
Yeah.
So,
So it'd have to be, if we're talking in the evening, it would probably have to be like 5, so that you're not, or 4.
yes, the games are
Start at
typically
5:30.
5:30 for JV and 7 o'clock for varsity. It looks like on Thursday, the 1st, the girls are hosting Brattleboro. So that's Thursday,
That's-
February
It's senior night,
1st.
isn't it, too?
I don't know.
Because I think that's the last home game, randomly enough.
There's a wrestling match on Friday, that's senior night for them on Friday night, and then they have the mega duels the next day. And then the boys are away that week, so yeah, that particular week, the girls are home.
Anything between the 5th and 9th?
At 9th, yeah, let's see. So the boys are at Rutland on the 6th. On the 9th, they're hosting Springfield. The boys are home on Friday the 9th, but that's a Friday.
Yeah.
And the girls are away on Saturday, so if you're gonna kind of dovetail it, it would probably be that Thursday, the first.
Yeah.
Or could be Friday, the second prior to, but there's a boys away game that day. So.
I'm just trying to get it.
Yeah.
If we could keep it in that window, I'd be, you have to find a way to get it in. I guess we can get that answer from Renee from legal, like, when does the official meeting have to happen? That's the warned.
So I guess, yeah, if we find out from Renee and then we shoot for either that second full week of February, the 6th, but then it still puts us
In that
within
window,
that 30-day window, and then schedule the second one for that last week of February in case of.
like the 27th.
And then a second one.
It would be good to have more than one in case people
Yeah.
can't make it till now.
Yeah, and then we're bypassing weather issues if we have to.
Our winter sports done, winter championship.
The
championship weekend.
the girls, the last play date for the girls was the 24th of February, and the last play date for the boys is the 17th. They just pivot so the boys are done on the 17th, the girls are done on the 24th of February.
Gotcha, so playoffs would be that last week,
Right, that's
For the
when
girls.
start.
and possibly the boys if they're
Right,
multiple, that would be semifinals
I
probably.
think the boys' playoff week is a week before the girls.
Yeah.
but it's the final week of the girls, but it could continue into the.
Right.
So does that, or, so maybe the 27th could work for us, that Tuesday. So I'll just jot down those dates, and I'll
Do
see.
you know the playoff, like you can go onto BPA and look at the playoff. We might want to
Suggested.
look at those suggested dates and not schedule it those days.
Yeah, you're right, because the 27th could be the opening
Right,
round. for the
Because it's
girls.
usually
That could be
Tuesday,
the-
Wednesday.
That could be the play down day.
Yeah.
For girls, so maybe that Monday would be better. They might not put a game on the 26th. Because you're right, the 27th, if they have like if you only have 14 teams, you might have a 10 versus a 14 play in, play down, whatever they call it now.
Play downs, yeah.
That's a good point. That would be tough.
Because it's usually the Tuesday, Wednesday,
so
and
for
then the
boys,
Friday.
It'd be great if
so-
we were hosting it.
Yeah.
For boys, it says the play down dates are February 20th and 21st.
So the girls would be 27,
And the-
28.
Girls are 27 and 28.
And then the next round, I think, is that Friday, Saturday.
Right, so the
Yeah.
boys quarterfinal would be 23, 24, girls first and second.
But we're talking about a handful of parents that,
Right.
not,
Well,
and if we had.
But there would be
If
kids.
we were
who
hosting
may
a play down, I think it would be
Oh,
phenomenal. It would be
yeah,
phenomenal.
right.
Because you would get more of a turnout.
Yeah, but it's a handful of parents, but don't we want as many of these, like, and these are the parents that probably play in the.
No, yeah, but there's, if we have 2 meeting dates, then we
Right,
could have them.
But Monday that
Right.
26 should be
Right.
a problem.
Yeah, there's never-
Around going, what if we get.
and I
into
will,
But Monday the 20th, that might just make it easier for us to say, hey, Monday the 26th, and if the auditorium's available,
Okay.
we have it on that Monday.
Then it's not my birthday.
Yeah.
No, I have to come to, and maybe.
Well, we can still meet on your birthday.
Okay.
So I'm just gonna put to 26th Monday for 1, and we'll check 2, 8, 2, 9 maybe. And I'll ask Renee, what's the official window that we have. But 2 should be enough, don't you think?
I think so.
I mean, the 3rd might be overkill.
But as soon as you have those dates locked in, if you can shoot me an email saying they're locked in and what time we plan on doing it, I'll work on getting medical people.
Anything else? I did have other business. Is there any other business besides planning that we were thinking?
the only other question is, Mike, do you have, like the previous bullet points from the previous go-around that I could,
Again, I have a folder called Spinelli Field, still, so I can go through.
okay, yeah, and
I've got a
if-
timeline, I've got, I've got an op-ed that Ashley and I put together for the banner,
right,
all those things.
yeah, so if like there's anything that I could pull out for the,
Sure.
Just send it to
Bullets.
both of us and we'll.
Sure.
I don't have access to Google Docs.
So I did it mainly in PDF
Okay.
versions because it was just easier to post. So, all right.
Maybe, throughout the coaches and stuff and the coaching families, maybe we can get a letter writing campaign going for letters to the editor in the banner. I know it's one of the first things I read when I open the banner, right?
Yeah, it's sports and letters to the end of your journals.
Obituaries first.
Oh, obituaries, yeah.
Dave goes there.
And I definitely think we need to get every coach, I think, in the program should try to, like, the whole MAU should try to support this.
I know, Mike, I just was thinking.
And all the athletes. We have to-
Under our talking points, I didn't assign anything to myself, but I will. Getting the coaches involved, so I'll send an email about attending these dates. But I'll ask each of those coaches to also get their middle school coaches and their youth programs involved, because I think it impacts all the way through. So
Absolutely.
it's exponential now getting in. Hey, your kid might be playing Maya football right now, but in 6 years they'll be playing Anthony football. And same thing with the Mall lacrosse. And,
Right.
Maya football could play at Spinelli.
They currently do, actually.
Mhm.
And then I think we had the booster open this past year for it.
So this is a question that I'm sure might come up because I asked the question that why we just don't play on Spinelli more often for lacrosse at 4:00 because the whole concept is right, the lights, you can't do nighttime, blah, blah, blah.
It's the
So-
growing season.
What?
The growing season, like that's when the grass gets its growth.
Like in the beginning, but I mean like towards the end, like when we're talking June, like, cause we play a senior night there.
Yeah,
Like, could there, so I guess I asked the question, and part of, some of the information I got too is that there is a concern with playing lacrosse and playing baseball at the same time, so they can't be on the field at the same time.
That happened last year, yeah.
So I guess my question is, that might come up. How do we, is it the lights, are they gonna all be night games? So does that get around the baseball?
So, part of the discussion, and I put it on hold, was to talk about some netting.
Mhm.
That would be, because I don't want to spend money on netting that now we're gonna redo the field. But there was discussion about extending the netting on the third base side, of the baseball to go all the way down right to the left field, like kind of a home run area. And then there was talk about setting up nets, because the other thing is track will be practicing, so you want to have some nets, especially in and around the lacrosse goal areas, so that when people are like,
Lacrosse netting.
You know,
The PPA has.
Yeah.
so that's how it happens. Right now, we don't have any netting.
Because we don't
lacrosse-
need it, right?
Put a lacrosse game on Spinelli, you'd have to, pretty much say at this point, track is not meeting, hey, baseball is,
Away.
they got practice or it's away or something.
Right.
So there's a lot of things that have to kick in, but I think we're going to play games, we would have to,
Have it at a.
have it, just from the lacrosse balls, like, you're not gonna walk behind the
Right.
goal during a lacrosse, a lacrosse game. So, it's having that set up, I think, yeah. So it's in discussion, but we haven't invested in it, because to me, it seems foolhardy to put money into, putting all this netting up and then, wait, we're gonna have to reconstruct some things.
Yeah,
So-
we should just be prepared for that
Right,
question. Sounds like you are, so good.
Any other business? All right, thank you. I'll try to recap this list in an email to everyone and those that weren't here. And send that up.
Okay.
Do we want to try to meet in January to finalize before we have our
I think we're gonna have to,
Yeah.
I think we need to
get our ducks in a row?
have all our statistics figured, like, so I'm assuming as we gain these statistics and these numbers, we're gonna be sharing them amongst the group so we can start creating.
I can start an email thread or just continue our email thread as like, hey, please reply here with information that you find or
Okay.
things you put together. But I think maybe that might be something, if we have a January meeting, we share in the packet, that way it's shared publicly also, so people know what we've been working on. And there are probably the 12 people that go and actually download packets and look at them would have that information, but,
Nancy White, Sammy Racine.
well, there's several that do it, and, it's good, it's a good read when you're trying to sleep.
And also, is there any, required branding for PowerPoints? Like my company, you can't create a PowerPoint and share it unless has a certain stamp of approval in terms of branding.
I don't think we have any branding that we have
Like,
to worry
I could just
about.
copy and paste a thingamajiggy and I'm good.
Yeah.
Okay, just wanna make sure.
Do you have the other PowerPoint that you did? Maybe that would be good for
Oh,
Shelley
the
too.
one from
Yeah,
this, staff,
the-
the survey?
the survey.
Yeah, I can share that.
She can at least pull some of
Yeah.
that, those statistics out of there.
Yeah, you can just use the logo I
Yeah.
used. I got that from, I don't know, what's her name? Our communications,
Katie
Katie,
West.
thank you, jeez. It's been a day.
Okay, so you'll send me the PowerPoint.
Yeah,
you'll
and
send
then I
me-
guess I'll look
And
for,
then Mike will send us other information.
maybe the second or third week in
Doing it
January.
right now.
Oh,
How about that? We can go through.
Second, third week in January, maybe
Yeah.
we meet.
I think the second, because if we need to get back together again before the first week of February. we
Yeah, yeah.
have time.
Yeah, well, I know, probably have a Bonnie Anthony meeting on the 17th, where you guys are the third Wednesday.
mhm.
I'm not gonna give us January off.
No, you gotta approve everything, don't you?
Yeah,
February usually is the one to give you off.
that's right, that's right.
Because of the,
Right, so you guys should have gotten all the Spinelli Field, like things that I had, at least in that folder. So
Okay.
that, you can look through. There's like, it was an interesting folder that there was a thing called testimonials where we had reached out to, ADs and I put that into a document. There was like a timeline, events, some FAQs that we had put together. So a lot of stuff that I think we're looking for.
Glad you hear, Mike.
Okay, and would it be beneficial, how like during town hall meeting, I mean, this might be expensive, so you can shoot me down. But you know how town hall meeting, they have they create that book. So,
For like the.
yeah, so would
town
it be, like, if we, I'm assuming those testimonials that we have, we may need to double, like, if we want to use those, do we need to double back to the person that created?
I didn't give like who said what. I
Oh,
just
okay.
like I just put it, like, so we had asked, we sent out a survey to athletic directors, trainers, like, just local folks. They weren't all Vermont based, I think just people, and asked for some responses. So I took their responses and kind of quoted them. Most of them were via email, so I just kind of copied and, pasted there. But I did not put, as said by Chad Gordon. or anything.
Okay,
So it doesn't, so it is just a variety of ADs, trainers, like from different schools in different areas.
So like, it may be beneficial for us to have something that they, like, with some of that information for them to leave with.
Yeah.
And absorb
At our meetings, absolutely.
Yeah,
Some kind of
at
handout.
those two meetings, a handout or some sort of packet.
How about a before and after picture? You get your muddy looking field and then, what it could look like.
Well, I think if I know he has it, he's put it together, the head coach up at St. Johnsbury, they have a lot of before and after their facility, and I can, he would be more than happy to give a testimonial, but also any photos of what they looked like before and after, and now how enthusiastic they are to host the state championships next year.